So what are we doing now? We're talking to Mikitoba, right? Mikitoba's at the stand. Well, we actually start on time today. Oh boy. I have a feeling if I don't get impatient tonight, this may take another day to finish, which I'm kind of sad about because I don't want this to end. Hi, Ikari. I don't want this to end, man. Alright, here we go. What are we on? The autopsy from 10 years ago. As far as I saw, I'm unable to say with certainty whether there was any forgery involved in that autopsy. Thank you for the follow, Waternouse. The victim's cause of death was a stab to the heart with a Western-style sword. Something about that seemed a tad off to me at the time, but...
There wasn't a single other injury inside the body. That means that there was nothing suspicious. But they did find something in his stomach. A very beautiful and dangerous piece of evidence.
The victim swallowed it in order to indicate his killer. That's what we determined at the time. So, there was no fabrication? Are you sure about that, Professor Mikitoba? At the very least, I'm unable to guarantee it as fact. I'd say that this makes everything quite clear. Thanks for the follow, Rose Bro. 297. The only thing here that's a forgery is you, Asogi. What? The detective confessed to me just before his death. That was nothing but a big, fat lie. No! Detective Gregson definitely admitted it! Under the extreme circumstances of having a katana pressed right to his throat. Oh no! This is not how I wanted to start this stream! There is no reliable value in words forced out of someone in such a situation. There was nothing suspicious about the death of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. That fact has just been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. If I may, Your Honor, I'm afraid that there were suspicious points and room for doubt. What? This is a fact, Your Honor is already aware of. And every other one of the 4 victims claimed by the professor. They died from having their throats torn out by a massive beast.
How terrifying.
However, for some reason, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, the final victim, was the only one who... You're right.
He was pierced through the heart with a sword.
That's enough. I believe I warned you. But the moment your testimony contained conjecture, it would be halted. Oh, poor Mikitoba. Understood. In that case, I'll just have to reveal the conclusion via a cross-examination. What? The defense has a right to cross-examine any piece of evidence. I will insist on that right until the bitter end. Naruhodō.
Even if you are the judge, you will not be permitted to hand down a ruling that goes against the great British jurisprudence. That's something that every member of the judicial system in this courtroom should be aware of.
You can't stop us. Let us do this trial. Very well. The court orders the defense to conduct its cross-examination. However, if at any point the contents cease to be anything beyond cold hard facts, the cross-examination will be halted at once. Bear that in mind.
Yes, Your Honor.
They found something in his stomach, a very beautiful and dangerous piece of evidence. So, just what was this beautiful and dangerous piece of evidence?
It was sparkly and round, with just a big enough hole to fit on someone's finger.
To put it simply, it was a ring, and it belonged to Asogi Genshin. My dad's ring was in the victim's stomach? What? At the time, Asogi Genshin had been wearing a large ring on his left ring finger. Apparently, it was a sort of memorial item. When my dad left for London 16 years ago, I was still only 8 years old, but it's true. I remember that ring as well.
Really?
My dad's remaining possessions were shipped back to us, but the ring wasn't among them. Of course it wasn't. It was vital evidence, after all. It's still locked up tight, preserved in Scotland Yard's evidence storage area. After the autopsy, Asogi Genshin was summoned and his left hand checked. The ring had vanished, and there was a scrap on that finger in its place. A scrape. And then, right before my eyes, Asogi Genshin was arrested. Father.
Actually, I brought that ring with me today.
Huh?
Here. It was collecting dust in the evidence storage area.
Yes, that's the very one. It was my first time seeing it in 10 years, but... And you say that was found in the victim's stomach? Yes, it certainly was. Is something wrong? You hesitated just for a second there. Yes, now that I think about it, I myself didn't see the moment that the ring was discovered inside his stomach.
Huh? You didn't?
At that moment, I was in the midst of preparing a replacement lancet at Dr. Watson's request, you see. Dr. Gillenay, I believe that removing evidence from the evidence storage area requires my permission. Dr. Gillenay doesn't give a crap!
Huh. In any case, now that it's been presented, it's incredibly important evidence.
Very well. I'll allow it. Genshin's ring. Asogi Genshin's ring, which was found inside Lord Clint's stomach. It's got a very rough and sharp-looking claws. This is a very unusual ring for Japan. These rough-looking claws are holding the jewel in place.
Perhaps we should give it a closer look.
There wasn't a single other injury inside the body. That means there was nothing suspicious. Do. Hello, ring. These rough-looking claws are holding the big jewel in place.
My, it looks like you could slice your hand on it if you're not careful.
Ow! The claw on the ring scratched me. My fingertip is bleeding.
Oh dear, you certainly wasted no time in being careless.
Oh, these claws are pretty darn sharp. You'd be in seriously bad shape if you swallow something like this.
You'd be better off swallowing a sweet bean paste covered mochi of the same size.
I feel like that could get wedged in your throat pretty good too. Swallowing? When Dr. Watson removed this ring from inside the victim's body, you didn't actually see it happen. Is that correct? Yes, you're right. Just as I previously testified. I was in the middle of exchanging the professor's surgical tools at his request. In other words, you're not able to guarantee whether this ring was actually found inside the victim's body. And what's that supposed to mean? The ring was not discovered inside the victim's stomach. It's possible that Dr. Watson forged it to make it appear as though it had. What? Then Professor Watson stole the ring from Asogi Genshin in advance and took it out to show you all as if it had been discovered in the victim's stomach. Ridiculous. What proof do you have of that? This is the proof. Is that an autopsy report? However, it is not clearly recorded in that report that there were no internal wounds whatsoever, and no abnormalities. No internal wounds whatsoever. That in and of itself is abnormal. What? One would have needed some incredibly serious resolve in order to swallow a ring like this. Additionally, there are rough claws holding the jewel in place. Of course, he risked his life in order to swallow it. In order to leave proof of the one who murdered him. However, if one were to actually swallow a large ring like this, there would definitely be traces left behind, in the form of internal wounds. Ah, oh boy! You're exactly right. 10 years ago, I myself had some misgivings about it. Professor Mikatova. I clearly remember even now the conversation I had in the operating room with the doctor. Look at this, folks. It appears that there was something incredibly interesting sleeping inside his stomach. But, Dr. Watson, isn't it a tad curious? What do you mean, Mikatova? If one were to swallow such a large ring, with such sharp claws on it, shouldn't there be some traces left? Some wounds in the throat or esophagus lining, for example. Dr. Mikatova, I have far more experience with this sort of thing than you do. Pardon me. I can think of plenty of cases in which there would be no resulting wounds. The victim swallowed this while dueling this killer in order to leave evidence. Go on, write that in the report. Wow, Watson is a jerk in this universe! So then, Dr. Watson really did intentionally forge evidence. How worthless. This is a pointless debate. What did you say? Dr. Watson was the highest authority in the Great British Empire's forensic bureau. You have no scientific evidence to call his opinion into question, and the door's open again. Be right back. If I may, it is possible to confirm even on a living person whether their throat tissue is wounded.
We can try it with the use of one of those endoscopes that was just invented in France. I would love to buy one with government money.
Ooh. There's no need. More importantly, Dr. Gillenay, you best be prepared. You best prepare yourself for the punishment that awaits you for removing this from the evidence room.
The reason we open dead bodies is to find the truth.
What?
But Mama hid away the secrets the bodies held. That was wrong.
Dr. Gillinay. Sounds like she wants to walk a different path than the one her mama chose. Normally it does. Oh, no, it doesn't actually. A ring, huh? What is it, defendant? I've just remembered. Something about back then. Oh my god, my dog, stop! Why doesn't this door have a lock? I've just remembered. Something about back then. Back then. I told you this once before, but I recall. Asogi Genshin saving my life once before. What? Dad saved you? One foggy night 10 years ago, Asogi Genshin and I were walking along a back alley in London late at night. Okay, why were you even in the back alley? That's when... Keep your voice down. Come this way. They were all armed with pistols and were hiding their faces with scarves. The next thing I knew, everything had gone quiet. Genshin was lying on the brick road. His left hand was bleeding. He protected me. The finger he wore the ring on was his left ring finger.
You can't mean...
I'd assumed that the attackers were after me at the time, but perhaps I was mistaken.
What?
2 nights after we were attacked by those night prowlers, Asogi was arrested. Apparently, during those 2 days, they managed to find decisive evidence.
Which was the ring he was attacked for that night.
Oh, we're at this again! What a cowardly trick.
I refuse to believe that you had nothing to do with it.
What?
You were the one who stole it, weren't you? My dad's ring. In order to have Asogi Genshin arrested as a serial killer, you... Asogi. Wake up.
Naruhodō.
Don't you know? You can't grasp the truth if even a small part of your vision is clouded. Right now, your eyes are clouded with hatred. Was the reason you led me to this courtroom, so that you could show me your blind hatred.
What a ridiculous sight. My heart.
That scene, that hurt.
It's almost as if you're trying to claim that those expressions of yours, that you are embodiments of justice. Almost as if you decided this forgery business is the truth. But it also seems that you've overlooked a very basic contradiction.
Huh?
Oh. Oh. That required a lot of raw emotion from me to do that. Hold on. Oh, okay. It's incredibly difficult to believe, but let's say for a moment that such dishonesty had occurred. Why did Asogi not try to claim that in court? The defendant never once denied his charges during that top-secret trial 10 years ago. Is that right, Lord Van Zeeks? You're right, he didn't. When the guilty verdict was handed down, he simply closed his eyes and accepted it. Those were the eyes of one who has admitted his crime and steeled his resolve.
No! You're right. That is very unnatural. Unnatural? The fact that Genshin-sama didn't claim any such thing would have to mean that no fabrication ever occurred.
You should have been the one to say that, Prosecutor Asogi. Apparently, you're incapable of even seeing logic with those twisted convictions and clouded eyes of yours. Oh boy. There can be only one meaning for Asogi Genshin's silence. And that is the fact that no fabrication occurred 10 years ago.
There was nothing dishonest about the autopsy 10 years ago then. Lord Vortex is going to end this trial here and now.
I owe you my thanks, Naruhodō. If not for what you said, the trial might have ended by now.
Asogi!
What are you talking about, Prosecutor Asogi? Your Honor, there is one large hole in your so-called logic. What? Asogi Genshin's silence was because there had been no forgery. That's what you said. But that's not necessarily the case. You're overlooking the possibility that he had some reason for maintaining his silence. I mean, he's standing right there. Ludicrous. The only thing waiting for him thanks to his silence was a guilty verdict, and therefore death. If there had been forgery, it's unthinkable for him to have had any reason not to claim so. Is it not precisely because there had obviously been forgery that the two involved in committing it have been murdered? If I close my eyes to this long-standing hatred of mine, I become able to see a different side of you. Have you also spent these 10 years blinded by a major lie? Me?
This chance that Kazuma-sama has provided for us may be our last. If we can indicate the reason that Genshin-sama maintained his silence in court, then...
A reason that someone who was innocent would keep silent. There had been some sort of deal. There is no need to repeat words that have already been said. The time has come to prove it. What evidence indicates the reason for Asogi's silence 10 years ago? Did I get this right? You're right. The result of Asogi Genshin's silence was a guilty verdict. But he wasn't meant to be executed. Far from it. The execution was used in order to launch a major jailbreak plan. It's hard to imagine my dad making deals, but that's true. an execution, a forged death certificate, and a jailbreak making use of the transfer of the corpse. It goes without saying that this was not the sort of plan any one person could have enacted alone. But it would have to mean that he had an accomplice within the English judicial system. This is the disciplinary dismissal notice given to the head jailer at the time. There are indications of a jailbreak plan having been in place before the convict even arrived at our prison. That's what's written in the remarks section. In other words, this right here is likely an indication of a deal struck between Asogi Genshin and his supporter in the English judicial system. In exchange for his silence in court, he was promised to be allowed to escape from the gallows. If there was a secret agreement of that nature, then Asogi Genshin's silence becomes understandable. Actually, unless we can assume that, there's no way of explaining why such an elaborate jailbreak plan was set into action. Order! Order! So you're moving from forgery to a jailbreak? Of course. After all, it was all connected. Everything's connected! The prosecution moves to summon new witnesses. Witnesses. The man who can testify about the jailbreak 10 years ago.
Chief Officer Barricade, and that poor head jailer.
Ridiculous! Summoning the chief officer of Barclay Prison at a time like this! Oh, actually, there's no need to worry, Your Honor. What?
Father?
In spite of the way he comes off, my friend can be quite thorough when the need arises. We've already sent a telegram to Barclay Prison and the detention center, telling them to appear at Old Bailey at once.
Home-san, he did that for us?
So then, you can't mean... At this very moment, Chief Officer Barricade and Head Jailer Dame Watchin are likely waiting out in the lobby. Nice! Come, Your Honor. Let us proceed according to your declaration. Your declaration that we would pursue the truth, so that not a speck of doubt remained. This is gonna bite you back, man! Very well. Bring them in. If it'll bring this trial to a conclusion, then I can't wait to hear what they have to say. I don't like how he said that. I like how Baroque is still here, just camping. Now, witnesses, if you could state your names and occupations. I'm Harry Barricade. I'm the chief officer of Barclay Prison. Folks call me Gossip. I sell amusing topics to gentlemen. Could we get the persona from 10 years ago instead? Please? Pardon me. Of course, you're right. Oh, poor Gossip! I'm Everyday Watchin. I was the head jailer of Barclay Prison. The reason you've been summoned as witnesses is to have you testify about the jailbreak of the professor 10 years ago. The professor? But I believe that was already cleared up 10 years ago. It ended up being a non-issue. The moment it became clear that there was a jailbreak plan, it ceased to be a non-issue. Not only was the execution system used and the death certificate forged, but he escaped by posing as a corpse. An elaborate plan like that would have been impossible if not for a powerful ally within the prison. Don't think you're safe just because 10 years have passed, Chief Officer Barricade. If you had some part to play in the jailbreak plan, then, naturally, you will bear that responsibility in crime. Capital punishment is even a likely possibility. Now hold on a moment there. All I did was... Witness? Chief Officer Barricade. Yes, sir! You currently bear an important responsibility to the peace and order of the Great British Empire. Testimonies are immeasurably influential. Take care in your statements. Also, Prosecutor Osogi, I won't permit badgering of the witnesses. Begging your pardon. There can be no mistaking that there was an elaborate jailbreak plan 10 years ago, and these witnesses had something to do with that plan. Now is the time for you to testify about everything. The court will now hear your testimony. Tell us what you know about the jailbreak 10 years ago. Man, at this point, I don't think perjury is a punishment in any Ace Attorney games, because everyone frickin' perjuries. The plan 10 years ago. 10 years ago, a letter of instruction arrived from the prosecutor's office on the day that the guilty verdict was handed down. I left the condemned prisoner in the hands of Dame Watchet, the head jailer, and began putting the secretly began to put the plan into action, and secretly began putting. And secretly began to put the plan into action. Okay. I left the condemned prisoner in the hands of Dame Watchet, the head jailer, and secretly began to put the plan into action. I was in charge of him until the night of his execution. I didn't know anything about such a plan. All I did was set the plan in motion. It was all for the sake of the Great British Empire. Oh, wait, nope, I skipped the line. Oh, I'm skipping lines here. I don't know whether there was some kind of deal between the prisoner and the prosecutor's office. I just set the plan in motion for the sake of the Great British Empire. Ooh, not bad. So, the letter of instruction from the prosecutor's office was the jailbreak plan. That's what it would mean. Who on earth was that letter of instruction from? I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? Everything about the professor's case was unique. All I did was act as I was instructed to. I don't know a thing about anything else. Is that so? A letter of instruction issued by the prosecutor's office ordered the jailbreak. This tells us one fact very clearly. There was a secret deal between Osogi Genshin and the prosecutor's office, which means that they had a deal. He would confess to the crime in return for the promise that he'd be let free. Prosecutor Osogi, this is nothing more than your conjecture. Now then, defense. Yes. It's obvious that these men have no further information they can offer, but you still intend to insist on your right to conduct a cross-examination. Yes? Yes, Your Honor. I have no intention of surrendering that right. Just how stubborn are the Japanese? Very well. Your cross-examination, then. The closer to the truth, the more of a conjecture it is. I set the plan in motion for the sake of the Great British Empire. Blah. Did you put the whole plan into action? Yes, it was all we could do at the time. It's said that after the jailbreak, Asogi Genshin was shot to death in Lowgate Cemetery. Was that also part of the plan? What we were ordered to do was to carry him out of the prison, so I don't know what happened after that. However, his death was the final phase of the plan. That's what I think. Dame Watchin-san, is everything okay? Yes, sir! What is it? That salute. Maybe it's part of the manual at Barclay Prison? You appear to have sunk into thought after hearing Chief Officer Barricade's testimony. Did something occur to you? I've lived these past 10 years with my memories sealed away. I have been betrayed by the Chief Officer in the name of the Great British Empire. So in the end, does that mean my dad also ended up being betrayed by the Great British Empire? It's just, when I think back on it now, I can't imagine that having that Japanese man shot to death in the cemetery was part of the plan. What makes you say that? I mean, think about it. Bribing him with a jailbreak into confessing to the crimes, and then ultimately killing him. What a terrible plan. But if they were going to kill him anyway, then why? Why would they need to have bothered letting him escape once? That's extremely cruel.
True. You're absolutely right.
If it had been the plan from the beginning to betray Asogi, they should have just taken care of him in the prison. This all happened in the giant locked room known as the inside of the high prison walls. I guess there's no one who knows what really happened there. You're right. It is a very curious mystery. Actually, there's something I thought strange as well. We assumed that there was some sort of deal behind that jailbreak. And there's something that just doesn't make sense.
It sounds like we ought to have Chief Officer Barricade add his doubts to his testimony.
Sure. Alright then. For starters, there's no way that Japanese man could have had anything worth trading. I was making sure I was reading that right, and that was actually that was the Asogi file.
A promise that he be allowed to escape in return for confessing to being guilty of being a serial killer. That was likely an incredibly dangerous exchange for Asogi Genshin.
Of course it was. If he had been betrayed by England and the execution had been carried out confidentially, then the secret would have been protected. If you think about it, there's no way a verbal promise like that would have been honored. In other words, Asogi Genshin must have possessed some sort of ace up his sleeve. A powerful weapon that would have protected him from betrayal at all costs. There's no way You already know about the Asogi file. This is the will that Asogi Genshin left behind. Apparently, Asogi Genshin snuck his will into his cell with him. Head jailer Dame Watchin-san saw it. Did you leak that information? I told you that was a secret! You're not in a position to do anything to me anymore. Please leave Daewatchin alone! When Daewatchin-san glimpsed that document from beyond the bars, apparently, Asogi Genshin said this. Alright then. So, what is that document? My will. This will is my final weapon. A weapon! And then after Asogi Genshin was killed, after the apparent jailbreak plan, did that will not end up going missing? Yes, the jailers searched his belongings, but the will was the only item that they simply couldn't find. I bet I know where it is, though. They've said it a lot, it's really obvious at this point, but we have to get there. I heard that it was named the Asogi file and was thoroughly investigated. Chief Officer Barricade. Apparently you were the one who demanded that the jailers search for it. Huh? Could that mean that you knew? Did you know of the power hidden within the will, known as the Asogi file? Ridiculous! I have no idea what you're talking about. Besides, that's right, that Japanese man's will ended up being found. Right there, in his cell. In his cell? Where on earth was it hiding? We jailers searched every inch of his cell. His delicate baby slaps. Maybe you're just rubbish at giving instructions. You're not in any position to criticize me anymore. I believe I showed it to you as well, Mr. Attorney. Yes, this is the document in question. It's written in Japanese. The writings of Asogi Genshin, it begins. That means that there's no problem here, does it not? However, this will contains a contradiction. What? A contradiction? Asogi Genshin referred to this as his final weapon. But this is just a plain old will. There's no weapon contained in it. Don't tell me, defense. That you intend to claim that that will that has been preserved at Barclay Prison is a fake. As we've already proven, Barclay Prison is not to be trusted. I think I know where that will actually is. The defense's comment just now called shame upon the English judicial system. The bit about it containing a weapon was nothing but the head jailer's claim, for starters. It's likely that it was likely that either he misheard or it was false testimony. No, please wait. I definitely heard him say that. It's not a lie. We better take this opportunity to clear up the circumstances surrounding that will, known as the Asogi file. That's not necessary. There was never any other will. Daewatchin-san's life was ruined 10 years ago when he was betrayed by the law. Do you intend to hear his screams again? Turn a deaf ear to them and discard them, claiming their lies. What is Barclay Prison hiding? The prosecutor's office gave the order for the jailbreak. That ended up being true. Isn't it obvious that some sort of deal was made?
Does His Honor really intend to deny that?
What? The head jailer's claim ought to be pursued further. Testify! Continue the trial. We need to hear his testimony. Apparently, those gathered here have no eye for the truth. Very well. Continue your testimony. Regarding the condemned prisoner's will you say you saw 10 years ago.
Understood, sir.
Asogi file.
I, as a head jailer, was in charge of the prisoner, kept watch over him and cared for him. The night the guilty verdict was handed down, he had that will in his hand in his cell. But after the execution, no matter how we searched his cell, we couldn't find it.
I knew of the existence of the Asogi file because I was ordered to obtain it. The will was found inside his kimono, which he left in his cell.
Excuse me? That's a lie! In his kimono? We investigated it so hard we nearly tore it apart. There's no way we could have overlooked it. That's a lie!
Damn you! You think you could get away with calling me a liar not once, but twice!
Huh. There's nothing you can do to me now.
Aside from grab me by my labels and give me a good shake.
Everett! Do you watch it?
Go on, shake me. What's wrong? Are you scared? I shouldn't laugh at this, but that was really funny. I'm starting to think they make a pretty good pair. Okay. We did as much as we could to respect the terms of that Japanese man's will. I gave the instruction for all his belongings to be sent to his family in Japan, as a show of manners toward the serial killer's homeland. Allow me to express my thanks for your consideration. My dad's belongings did indeed all arrive in Japan. And the handwriting on the will must belong to that Japanese man. I agree. I can guarantee that this handwriting is my dad's. Really? A final weapon, huh? It would seem that claim was no more than a mouthful of nonsense from a prisoner staring down his execution. Now then, the defense may conduct its cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Who keeps opening the door? Hold on. This will was found inside his kimono, which he left inside the cell. You mean Asogi Genshin's kimono? Well, of course! He brought it to his cell with him. I believe I heard that he was permitted to bring personal effects into his cell. That's right. He was permitted as much freedom as possible in the days leading up to his execution. He brought everything he owned to his cell with him, as if loath to part with it. His books, his kimonos, and his katana. Even his katana? It's the famous sword Karma, which has been passed down through the generations in my family. You could even call it the soul of the Asogi clan. Yeah, well, that may be, but it seems like he could have used that as his ace up his sleeve. Talk about dangerous. Don't be rude. I didn't even say anything. The cells are usually watched over by a jailer with a gun, and the prisoners have chains around their legs. It would have been impossible for him to hurt anyone with it.
Yet, the only thing he was forbidden from bringing in were writing tools.
Precisely that. That's why he had to write his will before he was led to his cell. Mikatoba brought Japanese-style writing utensils to the prosecutor's office, and he used those to write it.
Ink and an inkstone, and some calligraphy paper.
I was present while he wrote it, but if you'll permit me to say, those letters just look like black squiggles to me. I already can... Why is it called... The Will of Asogi. Like, as soon as I heard this back in case 4, I had a feeling, and I've got an inkling that I know exactly where the will is, and we have it in possession right now. We just gotta get there. May I ask, Dame Watching-san?
Dame Watching-san! Yes, sir! It was Scarlet! Scarlet? Pardon me. I unintentionally blurted out what I was thinking, didn't I?
It was written in blood! Dame watching?
Hey, no, come on. Just tell me what you were talking about. Did something come to you upon hearing the testimony just now? Maybe it might be more accurate to say that something didn't come to me. It seems like he's really at a loss over something.
Your Honor, the defense requests an addition to the testimony about this, thing that isn't coming to him. I suppose I have no choice.
Now then, Dame Watching-san, please go ahead. It was Scarlet! As far as I can recall, the writing on the document was in scarlet ink. Would I be mistaken?
Oh, no, no. No, my friend, I don't think you are.
I'd venture a guess, Dame Watching-san, that you actually saw those scarlet letters. Huh?
Ridiculous! Where did you find proof of...
Please, look at this report.
That's my brother's autopsy report.
These autopsy observes have been bothering me for a while. It says that there were scarlet ink stains on some of the fingers on his right hand. That's true. Scarlet.
How much evidence do I have? About 6 pages? 6 pages of evidence! And I lost my place. The autopsy observations have been bothering me for a while. No. I don't know much about how English aristocrats live, but...
do they normally walk around with ink stains on their fingers?
As if. My brother Clint was a noble and seditious man. If he got ink on his fingers, he'd have wiped it off immediately. What are you getting at, defense?
This means that Lord Clint Van Zeeks wrote something in scarlet ink just before his death. And right after that, he died.
What? There was something that bothered me at the time. The lid to the inkwell on his desk at the crime scene was left open. It was unlike my methodical brother. It was unlike my methodical brother. That's what I thought at the time. Additionally, we never managed to find any documents written in ink of that color. at the crime scene. So the document vanished from the crime scene. That can't mean that the document my dad was seen holding in his cell was something Lord Clint Van Zieks wrote just before his death. Just before his death. If Dame Watchin-san's testimony is to believe, then that's what it would mean. Dame Watchin-san! Yes, sir! When you saw the document Asogi Genshin had in his cell, it seems that this is what he said. Alright then, so what is that document? My will. This will is my final weapon. The will. If this is true, then Asogi Genshin's words actually held a completely different meaning from what we assumed. Can't mean. The thing that Dame Watchin-san saw really was a will, but it wasn't the will of Asogi Genshin. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zieks. What? The twist. Oh! Oh! Baroque! Oh no! Oh, no! Oh no, great. Now the other prosecutor's gonna have a mental breakdown. But my brother had a will. But that would mean that he'd gone willingly to his death. That's what it would mean, yeah. But that's impossible. Completely and utterly. Van Zieks-sama. My brother put his whole heart and soul into chasing down the professor at the time. No matter what had happened, he never would have just abandoned the investigation like that. Until he captured the murderer and all the loose ends had been tied up. Him choosing his own death would have been unthinkable. Even so, the fact remains that he wrote something right before his death in scarlet ink. And he then gave it to Asogi Genshin. What on earth could have been written in it? That, of course, was never once made public, I'm sure. After all, Asogi Genshin used it as a weapon in a deal with the English judicial system. That's precisely why that large-scale jailbreak plan was enacted. Because that will contained a big enough secret to warrant it. A huge secret. No way! That's enough! There's no use debating a will that may or may not have ever existed in the first place any further. That won't work, Your Honor. Oh, you're fine. What? Well, yes, but don't, like, curse because you can curse, just, you know. Or you can say duck, because that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to say duck instead of the F word. Ugh. The thing in Asogi Genshin's possession was the last will and testament of Lord Van Zieks. It's a possibility we've been led to by all the testimony and evidence we've seen so far. We must pursue this until the end. But so long as the contents are unknown, there's nothing to discuss. Oh my god, Baroque. Baroque! Poor Baroque is so confused right now! The reason that noble knight Clint Van Zieks would have chosen his own death. A huge secret that the English judicial system was willing to make a deal in order to protect. The answer is A single fact that would completely overturn everything we thought we knew. But that answer is just so...
Naruhodō-sama. Regardless of how painful the answer is, you must side with your client and gaze upon the truth. I believe that is what you said you were resolved to do.
Sado-san.
So, let's continue. This is the time to move forward.
Yes, you're right. 10 years ago, Lord Clint Van Zeeks used his final moments to leave a will. And Asogi Genshin considered that will to be a weapon. That must mean that the contents has something to do with the professor. That's no more than conjecture. What are you trying to say? Naruhodō. The moment I say this, there'll be no turning back. The contents of Lord Clint Van Zeek's will were a report, an accusation, a confession. I'm taking a break!